Okay, so let me tell you about this phenomenon
Just
that I
little
created
baby.
that is for no one's enjoyment but my own.
Okay.
So with my kids,
I
they
hope it's for their enjoyment.
well, it is for your enjoyment.
I've seen
From me
this
to you.
happen. They
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, it's really good. So
Mhm.
so basically, I started telling them stories from when I was a kid.
Yep.
And so the way I would always start it was one time when I was a tiny little kid.
One time.
And so now if I'm telling them a story from my past, I always say that.
When you were 8
No
pounds,
matter-
6 ounce baby Zachary.
Fist all balled up. Couldn't even
Oh,
say a
baby
word.
Zach.
So what I do now is if it was a story from college,
Yeah.
I'll say one time when I was a tiny little kid
Yeah.
and I was in college.
Yeah.
And so mix the two together, and
One-
they really do love it. It's
One
good.
time I was telling your kids a story about when I was in college, and they go, "When you were a tiny little kid?"
That's so
It's
good.
like,
Yes,
yeah,
that's exactly
yeah,
when.
sure,
Yes.
sure.
I love that.
Yeah, I was just creating some content for my kids.
Ooh, nice segue.
I
and then I ruined it.
and then
Oh man.
my goodness, I feel like this is not my gift. When we talk about creating content on social media,
Well, let's talk about it. And I have a question for the fine folks who are watching right
okay.
now. So a question that I have for you is like, what are some of your favorite follows?
My favorite follows.
Yeah, like
Like who do I follow?
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I
Oh
love
my goodness.
Yeah.
So
Like-
I am not really on social media much. I'm on Facebook for,
Well, that's social.
parents.
Social like that. I
but
think
I don't
defines
check it. I don't
what
check
social
it
media
though.
Is.
I don't
I'm
check
not really
it.
on social media, just Facebook.
Okay. All right.
Also, okay, boomer.
It was the worst offense.
Yes. Okay,
offense.
boomer. I watch a lot of YouTube. Does that count?
That-
Does
it
that
does.
count?
That's social
That's-
media.
that-
Do you watch shorts?
Oh yeah.
It's
Well,
a little
that's
different.
Social media.
Yeah. Usually, what I follow then in that case, what I follow is whatever project I'm doing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just built a new gaming PC, and so like my
feed is
feed
full.
is just full of that kind of thing, and it'll change
Yeah.
to whatever the next project will be.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of one that I could suggest to someone, which if this one would probably apply to many of you if you're watching right now.
Mhm.
But there's a guy named Colin Furs, and he's
No idea.
super like
Colin.
it's a clean channel, even though sometimes it's hit or miss. So this one's clean,
Yeah.
and but he basically builds things that you would not be able to build. Like he just builds big things.
Yeah.
And so one of the things he built was like a swing that goes all the way around.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was actually just a pole with a counterweight.
Right.
He does things like that and a lot of fabrication and stuff. And so the thing he's building right now, he started with an underground tunnel
Yeah.
under his house from one building to another,
Yeah.
which is amazing all on its own.
Uh-huh.
So he's like excavating underneath his house, which and
I've
then he
dreamed of wanting to do that.
and then he builds it out with like steel inside, reinforced
Yeah.
and everything. And so eventually he just can't stop is what it feels like. So he's like continuing to go. And so now he's building like a pop-up garage
Yeah.
that will lift. I think he's got a DeLorean,
Okay.
and it's going to pop up a DeLorean
From
out
from
the ground.
underground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Oh
he can
my
drive out, and
gosh.
then I think it'll go back down.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So he's almost to that section where he started building that. So it's Colin, Coln, and then last name is Furze, and he just builds drift
Yeah.
trikes and things like that. So if you're into that, then
That's cool.
that would be your channel. But I love watching his stuff.
Yeah.
It's just not frequent enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I follow Mr. Lindsay, which he's kind of blown up in the last couple of months. So he was like he is a middle school teacher, but he's been going on like the Today Show and all that stuff.
Oh.
Like he's blown up that big.
Mm.
But
Interesting.
essentially, like he's a middle school teacher that
Sounds
talks
familiar.
about middle school trends.
Oh.
Yeah, and so and
Did he
so
make up some Gen Z words?
he might have done that initially, and it's funny because when you're in ministry, like you can always spot a person who's in ministry. And
Yes.
so I found out literally this week in one of his videos, he's like, "Yeah, I used to be a youth pastor."
Oh,
He's
and you're like,
and I love
knew
the
it.
joke. The bit he made was, "But I didn't make enough money, so I decided to go be a public school teacher."
That's good.
Oh my
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one video, and I
That's
feel like it was him, but it was a
Yeah.
guy making up his own Gen Z slang.
Okay.
And so he was trying to like make it catch on with his kids, which is pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Mm.
So and then the other one that this is just like a pure satisfaction follow. There's these guys out of Australia. I don't even know what they're called.
How ridiculous.
Like maybe they like
I love those
the
guys.
big balloons. They like pop the big balloons.
And they like drop things off of a big tower.
I saw
Yeah.
one
Yes, how
from
ridiculous.
How
Oh my
Ridiculous this morning that was two glass cannonballs
Just-
impacting against
Just
each other.
the gigantic balloons that they blow up with stuff. It looks so satisfying.
Oh man.
They go to like Finland and
Can you
drop stuff off of a giant dam.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
like play a game that they have to crash onto
Yeah.
things.
Which is
It's
also
crazy.
the way that the ball spins backwards. Like if you spin it a certain direction, it'll go that
Yeah,
that
right,
way. Is
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Or I guess you spin it backwards and it goes forwards.
But yeah, so that's
How good? That's what they always say. You go this way.
Well, it
then
depends
it
on
goes
how fast it's spinning.
I don't know that.
Faster it's
That might be
spinning,
the ones I
the
don't know.
more it
Yeah.
uses the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yep,
funny
you
to
got it.
me. It's funny to me how social
right.
media,
No, it'll go.
how it like almost makes you follow things before you actually want to follow them. I think that's really interesting. Have you noticed this? Like the
Yeah.
algorithm refreshes itself every
Mhm.
couple of weeks
yeah.
or whatever, and
Yeah.
suddenly things that you enjoyed watching are no longer there, but all these different things are in there whether you want them or not.
Do you think they figured out that we need change?
Maybe.
I think
I wouldn't be surprised.
certainly
Yeah.
because like it changes over time because that's how we stay engaged.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and
Which actually is a great lead in to talking about contentment, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm.
you can only produce so much content before
Yeah.
it's all the same. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people will, because I started putting book reviews online this year,
mm-hmm.
and people are like, how do you find time to read all of that? Well, first of all, I don't. I listen to most of it, but and I listen to it at like 1.7 because ain't nobody got time for that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Especially
That's
for
true.
non-fiction.
especially people like book readers read so slow, and my brain is just like, I can't focus on what you're saying because I'm waiting on you to say the next word.
Mm.
Yeah.
I actually listen better if it's quicker. I have to write so much outflow. Like you have to have that much inflow.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what
For
I mean?
real.
And so that's the thing. You can only create so much of that before
Yeah.
people get bored with it. I think that same thing is true in any area of our lives. Like we can seek something, we can seek something for so long before we're moving on to the next thing. Like Zach, you and I are in the guitar community, and we know like that's like, man, I got this new thing. Okay, what next new thing can I get? You know what I mean? Like what's
Which that was your message to me after I bought
yeah.
a pedal. You said, "All right, on to the next one." Like, that's exactly what you said to me, and
I feel that.
I was already there. Like, I mean, like I had just done a couple things like
Yeah.
a few days before that were already in that zone of what you just said the next thing was.
Yeah,
There
because I know you now. You've Legoed one together, so now you want to buy the bits and bops, and you want to solder one together.
Yeah, well, I know because you
know me too
got
well.
you do that even with programs too.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you were
yeah.
using Ableton for a while, and now
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I
I'm gonna
gotta
go back to main stage.
It's the
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
and
just
So-
different
and I
program.
do the same thing in that world, just in a different way. Like I buy the thing, I'm like, cool, I've tried this thing. Now let's try this thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So can I be honest with you?
uh-huh.
Like yesterday or the day before, I looked up. Can I build like a pedal with a Arduino board?
Oh yeah.
And you can,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not. That's too much for me at the moment. So
Uh-huh.
At the moment,
But-
but we'll check in about a
Uh-huh.
month
week.
or so.
A week.
Or
In a week.
A week.
no.
Yeah.
So there's code that you can just drop onto it and then
Yeah.
run your ins and outs.
I do the same thing. Like I'm always working and researching on something,
Yeah.
you know, and like I just built a gaming PC, and there was a
Oh,
question
yeah.
in small group last night
Uh-huh.
that was talking about like, you know, I think it was like, what is something that you have been like pursuing that you thought would give you satisfaction
Uh-huh.
and then doesn't? And I
Mhm.
was like, anything I'm working on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I realized in that moment is that it's not the actual thing
Uh-huh.
that I am in finding satisfaction in. It is the most satisfaction comes in the chase almost.
Yeah,
Like,
it does.
in
yeah, I
the-
was
in
gonna
the
say the
building,
pursuit, but I was
in
like,
the-
let me
It
see what he
is.
says.
you know,
It
like
is.
working towards something and then getting it. Like the process of doing that is probably more satisfying than anything.
Mm-hmm. Especially like that, because you were building that, like you
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
let's say assembling,
yeah.
let's say assembling that, and so there's a lot of satisfaction. It's the same reason why even if you go to like Shirk's greenhouse and you buy a tomato plant, it's the same reason why those tomatoes are so much better than the ones you buy from Shirk's that they grew in their green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like it's just that satisfaction of the journey.
Mhm.
It's not really,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. But yeah, yesterday talking about contentedness, and we're doing this over the course of a couple of weeks, talking about contentedness, and I think a lot of people, it was like one of those messages where a lot of people were like, yeah, I do feel that way, and I didn't necessarily recognize that. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of the common denominator from people after services. And then one person was really funny. One person was like, man, like that family of 5, he's like, ours is a family of 6, but you nailed us.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I think a lot of people when I think content content. Sorry,
content.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Content is a very.
It was hard to keep straight in the sermon.
Content.
You're like, wait, do I mean content?
Is a very hit home kind of topic, because I think a lot of people value their peace.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the culture we're in right now. Is protect your peace and all of that, and like. Oftentimes which is a whole other area of content, right?
For sure.
But a lot of times what we do, I think the things that we see in that aspect of our culture is doing things, like what you said, doing things for yourself. And I think one of the things that stood out to me from yesterday's sermon in that topic was just like, it's not about the things that you do. It's not about more. And it's not necessarily even about less. It's just mostly just about being.
Yeah. So there's a book that I actually had to read it for my master's degree, but it's called Heroic Leadership. It's by the author's name is Northhouse. And it's about the Jesuit community and like the origins of the Jesuit community. And so it's a great read. But there was a story in there, and I can't remember the Jesuit's name. But he became very wealthy, and he's like, my wealth is a problem, right? But then he realized, wait a minute, like my wealth isn't the problem. My mindset about money is a problem. Like I need to come to terms with God that it really doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor. Like I'm content to be His, and so he talks about it talks about how he kind of worked through that and came to that solution within his own life. And I just think like that. That's what when I read those words from Paul in Philippians chapter 4, I know what it is to have plenty. I know what it is to have lack. I know what it is to have abundant, to have need. I know what it is to have, I think about that guy. You know what I mean? Like that's what I picture in my head. It's not that I'm more content because I have more, or more content because I don't have more. I'm more content because I have Christ, and He is where my contentedness is found.
So I think that's maybe the mistake in the people who neglect anything physical. What are those people called? Man, it's almost
Monks.
like a religious sect. Yeah, they neglect the physical and the
people who take like a vow of poverty.
Minimalists.
Or maybe minimalists are a new age form of that. But there were old people who would be like, I'm going to neglect the physical to accentuate the spiritual. And that's almost the other swing of the pendulum when you shouldn't be swinging a pendulum.
Yeah.
It should be taking...
Because it's all spiritual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the whole...
They're intertwined.
The secular versus sacred... secular versus sacred myth.
Yes.
Woo. I blue screen of death that one.
Yeah.
The secular versus sacred myth is a myth. Like it's all spiritual. It all affects our spiritual reality. You know what I mean? And so we create this fake war that doesn't even really exist, whenever we try to get there.
So I've heard this story about this guy who, I don't know how it was presented or whatever, but basically the guy, his dream and his goal of life is just to like work and make enough money to provide for his family. And like, that's it. And he's like, that's his satisfaction is that, like, not to make a ton of money. And I think that's a cultural thing. So even as Americans, we see like Elon Musk and we're like, oh man, like, should we aspire to be as close to Elon Musk as we can? Or should we aspire to be whoever, Warren Buffett or Dave Ramsey or Jeff Bezos, like all those people. But
do you ever look at a billionaire and think, man, I really trust that person's life choices?
Not usually.
Oh man.
I mean, I just don't. You know,
I like listening to Elon Musk's perspective, to be honest.
he has some good perspectives.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but it's almost like
Some of
separate
them
from a
are.
real person.
Yeah.
Compared to
because he
populace.
can live outside of reality.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So the
Wow.
to try to like get as
Yeah.
far as I can go, as fast as I can go,
Yeah.
as this is what life is about, is kind of a misunderstanding of life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like watching the poor guy who's taking care of his family, and he knows that that's like his.
But at the same time, making the intentional choice of I'm only going to do the bare minimum I have to do.
Right.
That's also living outside
Yeah.
reality. Like
Yeah.
that's like maybe that's your calling. Maybe.
But probably not.
But probably not.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of success principles in the law that people were supposed to follow.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, so what is that like?
You know,
How do you decide what's the basis? If that's not the basis, then like what's the basis on which we make
well,
decisions? You know,
I think
Like,
Dallas
'cause
talks
that's-
about it in his sermon is that
yeah.
contentment is not external.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and it's not about the things that you do. It's not about more or less.
Yeah.
It's about who you are inside, and the your own spiritual connection to Jesus. And I think that that's something that we lose.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that like it's helpful. I see as a pastor, people constantly judging themselves based on their spiritual habits.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, how many times did I pray? What's my,
Yeah.
what's my U Virgin Bible streak? And even in those
Bible
areas,
streaks.
those are all,
I'm sorry, I truly don't know
I-
this. No.
Yeah, they
'cause I
do.
don't ever log into YouVersion.
no, that's fine. I'm telling
Like,
my,
I open YouVersion, but I don't ever log into the app.
yeah. Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they have streaks.
So if you've asked to be my friend on YouVersion, that's why I've never accepted your friend.
Maybe
He's
you don't
not
even have an
logged in.
account.
I do have an account. I have logged in
Okay.
to do something for the church a couple times.
Okay. Yeah, for like Bible plans or
But
whatever.
I've done that like through the web
Browser.
app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they have streaks.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
you are logged in on the app and you pray for you read, all you have to do
I
is
know that
open
you
the
can do,
app.
like small groups through it, like
Yeah.
like digital.
No. If you open the app,
Okay.
it'll
That's the
s-
basis
it
on which
is-
they
that is the basis.
Okay.
You don't even have to open your Bible. You can just open the app. Okay.
get your streak.
And that's
that.
the
Got my steps
that is
in.
the basis of this streak. And so you
Love
just
that.
log in and it's like, okay, I did my Bible reading for the day. And
Did
so
you?
I get my little
Yeah.
next number, okay? And then they'll send you a notification once about like 9 o'clock or
Yeah.
so, or maybe it's based on whenever you generally read on the app.
I think my favorite. Oh no, I don't get notifications because notifications are crazy.
Yeah.
Like I don't let almost any app send me notifications. My favorite thing about YouVersion is the widget. That's my favorite thing about YouVersion.
Let me
Is
see if
the-
I can see that.
Yeah.
Can I? Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah. So.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. So every time I open my phone, I've got a Bible verse right there.
Ah.
And so
What does it say? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God.
that is true.
That is a pretty good like way to funnel that into your
Yeah.
But-
into your face.
That's my favorite.
I don't know if it counts towards your streak, though. No.
I'm guessing it doesn't since I read through streetlights.
So that's true.
There we go.
So like that's one of those things, though. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna base my faith
Yeah.
on something that is meant to be a means to an end.
Yeah.
Right? Scripture is meant to connect us towards God. It is not the end goal itself.
Right.
And so, we as Christians, sometimes we base whenever I ask somebody or a student or a friend or whatever, whenever I ask them, how are you and God doing? Like, how's your relationship with God? Every time, what's the thing that they always tell me is like, well, I could pray more and I could read more, and it's like, okay, but you and God as a relationship,
Right.
That's
Mo-
that's what we're about to jump into here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
The next series,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
is
Most people, though, I think a lot of that's an unfair, condescending way to say it. I think a lot of people struggle with relationship in
Yeah.
regard to God, who feels like concept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, like I have, one person really pointed that out to me a handful of years ago, and he is, I would assume still, I've since moved, but was a practicing Buddhist who was coming to the church I was serving at, because his next step in his Buddhism was to learn about Jesus. And so he's like, you always talk about Jesus, so I'm going to go there. And stuff. And he had been raised Catholic. And his parents were still practicing. And everything. So, yeah, really interesting.
So searching. He's searching.
Yeah, he's probably in his 50s at the time. And everything. So he had lived a whole life away from them. And everything. But it was interesting as he was beginning to get nudged, I think, by the Holy Spirit. It was interesting to hear him. He's like, the problem that I have and the reason why I can't be a Christian is I don't know how to love. I can know that God exists. I believe that a God exists. I don't know how to love the God that I know exists. And I don't know how to feel loved by that God.
So he feels separated, less relational, which is Buddhism.
Because we talk about the relationship all the time, right? We talk about loving God and being loved by God. And it is hard to, that is a hard cognitive, I can see where that's a hard cognitive jump for somebody who's super rational.
Yeah, especially because it's not always about emotions, and it's not always about thoughts. It's something deeper than that. Yeah, and so we talk about these things, we talk about good spiritual disciplines, and they're always good steps to take. But I think sometimes we as Christians, we lose that deeper concept, because we get distracted by the habits. But and so maybe for a lot of us, the time and what I took from that sermon and what I think sometimes helps me in my times of deepest need is, rather than when it's so hard to pray, when it's so hard to read, which those moments do come, sometimes it just helps to just sit and be with God, and to just exist and to dwell on him as much as you can, in those moments, and even in the best times, sometimes it's good to just sit there and enjoy God.
So if you struggle with that, because I hear 7 people screaming at their phone right now going, how do you do that? So if you struggle with that, join us for the first week of the Echoing Incarnation series. Because we're going to talk about that.
That's in 2 weeks from today.
Yesterday.
Yeah, which is November 17th was yesterday.
December 1st.
Yep, December 1st.
Yeah. So pastors always know when Sundays are.
I know when Wednesdays are.
There you go.
But
December 1st, join us for that, because we're gonna have that, specifically that kind of a conversation that day.
I didn't even know.
Well,
Now I know. There we go.
Absolutely. Cool. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this series comes in this week, because I know it's coming. You guys don't.
I don't either.
You should. You've got access.
I do have access, but I don't like spoilers.
I get it.
Especially if I'm not
you just want to let it unfold.
Working for the sermon. If I was doing something else, then if I was doing communion or something, but.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to continue through Philippians 4. This is a 2-week expository series in half of a chapter of the Bible. You know what I mean? Is all this really is. You could say it's topical, but it's really not. So there's that.
Okay.
It'll be good. And then again, join us for Echoing Incarnation. Man, I'm excited for Christmas stuff. We were talking, my friends, I have a group of friends. We call ourselves the Fab Five in our text conversation. And so that's my
I love that.
Yeah, my daily group chat. And we were texting this morning, and one of them was commuting to work and sent a screenshot of their radio, because is it 98.3? What's the one that switched to Christmas music today?
I don't know.
I don't listen to radio.
It's I don't either. But my friends are all old.
Got an okay boomer moment. He's like, I'm not a boomer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm one of the cool guys. But
Yeah.
You can trust me. I'm one of the cool guys.
Exactly. But anyways, he sends me a screenshot of his radio, and he's like, "Oh, this is ridiculous because it's Christmas music 24 hours a day now."
We put up our Christmas lights at the house, and
That's great.
it's
My
I had
Christmas.
to do it on a warm day.
And I'm like, I'm so ready, man. I've been listening for a while.
I for a long time was the person who you described as how dare you do anything before
How
Thanksgiving.
dare you?
And for the first time ever this year, I was at Walmart and I bought a Christmas tree and I
Yeah.
bought a pack of lights.
Yeah.
That's all I've done.
Yeah.
But I look at it, I'm like,
You should put
that's
that up.
pretty nice.
You
Oh,
should
I
put
did.
that-
I did.
Oh, wow.
Well, I meant that's all I bought. Like I don't have like a little Christmas village. I don't even
Okay.
have ornaments
I was
on
going
the
to say, do
tree.
you need ornaments?
I need to go to Hobby Lobby and
Okay.
spend like
okay.
20
okay.
bucks.
Let's crowd surf this. Church.
All right.
Church.
Oh no.
Do me a favor.
Oh no.
Every family, bring Joey one ornament. on
Oh
Sunday
no.
morning.
Why are we doing this?
Bring Joey one ornament.
Oh
okay?
jeez.
Write your family name on the back of it, or if it's round, just somewhere on it. Write your family name on it, and that way he will always remember you. And also, he will feel guilty if he ever feels like he has to get rid of him.
I actually kind of would love
It would
that.
be
Like
awesome.
you could just do like a little paper plate and just put. your
You could
names
do
on
that.
it.
Yeah, you could be something homemade. Like it could be, easy. It doesn't have to be expensive, right?
That's true.
You don't have to go buy the $27 ornaments at Hallmark. Like, but bring him one.
All right.
We'll fill that tree
Sounds
up.
good.
We had
All
to buy a
7
Christmas
people
tree
who
this year
watch
too.
this, we'll fill that tree up.
Dude, there's way more people than you would think. I get comments all the time.
So we bought a new Christmas tree this year as
Oh.
well.
Me too.
I've been
Ours-
wanting to.
Ours was our very first Christmas tree that just
Mm.
Yeah.
like lasted us about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then it was like, man, this thing's like some of the things are falling off.
Yeah.
And just from
It was time.
from bending those things
Yeah.
down and bending
Yeah.
them back up all the time. And so we bought
Yeah.
a pre-lit
Yeah.
tree, like kind of a
That's
cheap,
what mine is.
cheap.
They're
Yeah.
cheap.
Like skinny.
That's what we've
pre-lit.
had forever. Yeah.
Christmas
And-
trees have
and I've
gotten
cut the
cheaper.
lights off once and replaced them already.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
Oh.
good thing. It's still a tree, even
Yeah.
if the lights break. So,
That's cool.
so
Oh no.
So, yeah, so we're excited.
Riley's got
It's-
me covered.
Uh-huh.
Oh man.
Love it.
That's gonna be my favorite ornament, maybe.
For sure.
oh man, get ready to cry.
It'll have glitter on it. It's going to be great.
She'll draw it.
Riley, if
Actually-
you need
Riley-
more glitter, girl, you just come hit me up. I'll get you some.
I will
No,
put that
no.
ornament on my
Riley,
tree,
don't
Riley.
listen to him. So
Pink, silver,
throw it
gold.
all
you tell me
over-
what color you want.
And then throw it on just on his bed.
she's actually at school right now, so she'll
Oh,
have to come
okay,
back and watch it
okay,
later
okay.
today.
Oh, don't worry. I'll make sure she
Yeah.
knows.
So she actually is a big gift giver, to be honest, in the best way.
She's
Like
so
we've just started
sweet.
to see that.
Uh-huh.
So
I have about a stack of. I've got a stack of drawings
oh yeah.
that I need to get
So-
magnets to put on my fridge.
So that's
This
one
is
way.
True.
The other thing is she will take things from our house,
Oh, yeah.
pack them in her bag, and go give them out to people at school.
That's funny. Love that.
It's actually
Love
gonna be
that.
way funnier later
Oh,
whenever
man.
it's not impacting us now. But she just brought sodas to everyone once.
Uh-huh.
Like she just packed a bunch of sodas
That's funny.
and took them to school and passed them out.
Oh, funny.
I bought these little like plastic stingrays because she had gotten some from
Yeah.
Mr. Mark.
Yeah.
I bought like 30 of them for $5 or something.
Yeah.
That's what you
She-
need to do.
For her,
Give
she
her
took them
little
all.
baby Jesuses.
Yeah, she took them all and took them to school and gave them out. And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
I'm not buying you any more of these.
So all that tells
But
you is
gift.
that gifts is their love language.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Like
It really
that's all
is.
it really tells you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And so she has a bunch of little ornaments. I think that's what Rachel's maybe alluding to. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool.
That's funny.
But hand painted, Joey.
Well, gentlemen,
Wow.
we got to get on with our days.
I know, man.
Yes.
It's exciting. We hope you guys have a great Monday, and
Yes.
we're gonna try to have a
fun
good
in the
Monday
holiday
too.
We're
season.
gonna try. See
Good
y'all later.
rainy Monday.
Bye.